to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. Today on the show, I'm joined by Chris Wallace, the co-founder and president of InnerView, a marketing consulting firm that helps companies align their brand and product stories with their customer-facing teams. As you will come to find out as you listen, Chris is dedicated to improving the customer experience. It's so apparent in everything he says in this interview, in every approach that he suggests to us, and in the way he analyzes the world and the changes that we are going through during the pandemic. And Chris believes that there are two approaches to sales and marketing: the old way, product-focused way, and the new way, as he calls it, 21st century sales and marketing. And this way, he says, goes beyond the product you offer and focuses on providing value to your clients by meeting their needs and making their lives better. As a designer, most of you already relate to this concept, right? I think you understand that you are providing an experience, not just a new kitchen or a new piece of furniture. But Chris is going to bring this idea to the next level, saying that to reach this next level and provide real value to your clients, you need to get your industry partners on board with that idea. All right. Or you need to find partners that are already on board with that idea. So much of what Chris talks about is innovative, and it is something that's going to become the norm of the future. I think he's right. He truly believes that embracing new technology can help us provide the best customer service to our clients. Chris was actually introduced to me through a friend of mine, Alexis, who used to work for our beloved show sponsor, Cravat. So just like Chris, Cravat is always at the forefront of innovation. Their popular visualization tool is now available on the Lee Jofa Workroom Furniture. That means you can build your own unique piece of furniture. You can see it rendered before your eyes on the screen before you ever buy it. Okay? This is the kind of technology incorporation that Chris is here to tell you that he believes is the future. So you can get started on building your custom pieces at Cravat.com/Lee Jofa. Cravat.com/LEEJOFA. Now, let's dive in and let's hear what Chris has to say about this customer experience and how we can work with our industry partners to improve the customer experience for our clients. Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business.
Luann, thank you so much for having me.
So, Chris, I'm so delighted that my good friend Alexis, who used to be at Cravat, introduced us to each other. She spoke so highly about you, I have to say, and just a big shout out to you, Alexis, for doing this. Chris, you've said something pretty provocative to me. You've said that you believe that the interior designers need to leverage their industry partners so that they can improve their client experiences. And I'm so curious how you are going to teach us to do that. So get us started. Where are you coming from on this, and what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to start really with two things. I'm going to start with there's two words that come up in these industries that I think are so important for people to really examine and peel back the layers on. The first is customer. Okay, when you talk about customer, when you have industries where there's multiple players involved, there's a value chain involved from the vendors down through to the end users. Sometimes people forget and lose track of who the customer actually is. And when I talk about leveraging the industry partners to deliver that experience, it really is helping to get the entire value chain, the entire industry focused on one customer. That is the end user, making sure that they're acting in a way and they're providing support in a way that is driving a better experience and a better outcome for that end user, not just looking at the designer or whatever person that they're selling to, who's actually representing the product as the really as the sale. That's not the sale. The sale happens with the end user. Everybody needs to remain focused on keeping that person happy. The second is product. And when we think about product, product has driven so much of the way that the industry has gone, where the vendors, the manufacturers, the brands, they create new product and they mobilize the value chain to try to sell those new products. And we really think that, going with that reorientation around a single customer, we think that the industry needs to shift away from that a bit.
Okay, so I'm going to cheat here because we had an off-air conversation that gives me a little insight into what you mean. So I'm going to interpret a little bit. Mm-hmm. When you talk about customer and that there are multiple customers involved, and you believe that the industry partners and the brands must focus on one customer, which is the end user. You used a great example involving your brother and your sister-in-law. Would you share that with us so that we are all on the same page?
Yeah. So, part of my perspective is now I've been, working in related industries for a good portion of my career, but I have a very current perspective whereby my brother works for a major tile distributor, and his wife, my sister-in-law, is a designer for, let's just call them a major design firm or the major design firm. And I have a really interesting perspective on the relationship between selling, not the marriage relationship, that's a whole other show, but the relationship between the sales rep, call it and in this case, it's not even, this is a distributor sales rep, right? So the distributor sales rep's even into the value chain a little bit. This is not even the manufacturer or the supplier, but that relationship between the rep and the designer, the person representing the product. I talk about this idea of selling through the designer, not selling to the designer. The designer's not the buyer. The experience that you have to as a sales rep deliver to that designer needs to set them up to compel them to represent your products in a convincing way, in an enthusiastic way. At InnerView, my firm, we talk about belief, confidence, and pride. Anybody who represents your product, you need to instill belief, confidence, and pride in them. And that's the idea of selling through a designer, or selling through your partner, not to them. And it's that idea of putting them in a position to represent your brand and deliver an experience for their customer, the end user, that's unmatched, that's superior.
So what I'm hearing in here is what you're saying is, here's your brother who is, like you said, works for a major tile manufacturer, is just for the distributor sales rep for it. And your sister-in-law works for a major interior design giant in our industry. And so you're saying the old way of selling and the less effective way of selling is for your brother to focus on his wife as his consumer, as his client, and saying, hey, designer, this product is amazing. This tile is amazing. And you're saying the new way is, when you say selling through to the end consumer, the new way is for your brother in his capacity to give the designer in his or her capacity the words, the language, the tools that ignites and excites their end consumer about that product. So the designer in the middle is saying, I've got to have this because you've made it clear to me why this is going to be amazing for my client that I'm designing for, as opposed to, I just fell in love with this tile. And for your brother's job to stop at the designer, you're saying the brands, the industry partners have to go all the way through to the designer's clients. And what you're saying by being on our podcast today is, A, you want our designers to start to ask and request that of the brands, but B, you want our designers to understand what value that is for them if they're getting that story and that value handed to them, that they know what to deliver when they're turning around and putting it in their projects. Am I on the right track?
And not only on the right track, I couldn't have said it better myself. And by the way, I'm stealing ignite and excite. I just made a note. Ignite and excite is I think in headlines and catchphrases, and ignite and excite is a great one. But so I'm going to take it. I'm going to take what you just said, Luann, and I'm actually going to boil it down even one layer further.
Okay.
What I just described is 21st century selling. I mean, 21st century sales and marketing. And part of the challenge is a lot of the vendors and manufacturers, and we work with many of them, and they'll acknowledge this. They don't operate in a 21st century sales and marketing environment a lot of the times. It is very much we have product, please buy it. And we're going to push it on down through the funnel, on down through our value chain, all the partners that we work with. And it's always about check out our latest styles. We work with a marketing partner that does a lot of trade show and sampling and displays and things like that. And the joke that this partner always uses with us is, in a lot of these industries, it's check out our latest. It's harder than last year's. It's softer than last year's. And he always makes this joke about harder and softer. But when I talk about 21st century sales and marketing, it's about adding value.
Right.
What value are you adding to the process? If you are not, if you're a designer, you have clients that you have customers you need to keep happy. You need to deliver for them. If the partners that you work with are not putting you in a position to do that better, they're not operating in what I would call a modern customer experience frame of mind and a mindset that is helping to deliver value down through the chain, not at each link in the chain. It's not that idea of, oh, I'm glad I got them to focus on this, or they spec'd my product this time. It really needs to be, how do I put them in a position to help them land the deal in the first place? Because I am 21st century sales and marketing is about making your client's life easier. It's about helping them be more successful. It's about understanding their needs. And when we talk about the role of the designer in this, well, part of that is communicating what your needs are. Part of it is documenting what you really want to deliver to the customer and helping educate your partners on how they can actually help you. You need to ask, raise your hand and ask for the things that are going to make you successful, not just wait for the next seasonal product demonstration.
And I get this. I mean, listen, I fully am on board with this idea because I've written articles for Window Fashion Vision magazine. I've done videos. People buy process. People buy people. They don't buy product, right? And so what you're saying is we get that concept. We get that we're really I love the example of this year the tile is harder, next year the tile is softer, right? But that's not explaining why a consumer or a designer can really deliver the value and the benefit of that tile. It's just the characteristic or the attributes of that tile. And you want the designer to insist that the brands go deeper and explain more of the value story so that they're not just competing on this kind of tile or that kind of tile that their client selects, but the getting behind the whole thing of the way the tile is manufactured, designed, processed, everything to begin with, right?
Can I give you a great example?
Yes, please.
A direct example. I spoke with a designer the other day. We're looking at having a project done in our home. And I spoke with the designer, and in talking about some of the materials, and for better or for worse from her end, I'm somewhat educated on the product side of the house. So I'm probably going to be a pain to her. But the conversation I had with her, when she was talking about materials, she was talking about the materials and an overarching concept around ease of ownership, really. She was talking about porous versus non-porous surfaces and longevity. And, she understood. I very briefly told her my goal was this doesn't have to be a forever design, but I'd really like this to be a design that holds up for the next 10, 15 years, something that's fairly bankable and that's not going to go out of style. And she heard that and she turned that into ease of ownership and longevity, and she turned it into a story that was about how the product is going to make my life easier and meet my goals, my objectives for the investment I'm making in my home. And she did that very quickly on a brief phone call. But that struck me as she wasn't talking about the product. She was talking about the overall concept. And one of the specific materials providers that she was talking about has concepts that are built around that. So it's not just one piece of material. It's all of them work together to make sure that that whole ownership picture is simpler for the homeowner. So that's a great example. That's a story, right? Mm-hmm. That's a story. That's an experience, and that's showing that you understand and can respond to the needs of the consumer. That supplier has put her in a position to deliver an experience and sell on value, not just sell product. So I experienced this just the other day, and it struck me as these are the types of conversations. I'm sure a lot of your designers are having conversations like that, and they're great at understanding the needs. But I don't know that every vendor is good at providing them that story in a way that they can retell it and as enthusiastic of a way as she was the other day.
Nice. So tell us, and you're probably right. So many designers probably just heard that and thought, that's what I do. I do that. I do talk about incorporating the entire experience and the story and the benefit to my client, not just it's outdoor fabric that looks like indoor fabric. We'll use it on your sofa. It'll be great, right? Like that's what you're saying. It's like really get into, and I always say all the time, let your client tell you what they want and then use those words to tell them, to let them know that you heard them, and then to close the deal on them, of course. Absolutely. Right?
That's absolutely the truth. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so now what you want us to do is you want us to take it a step further and assess the industry partners that we are doing business with and tap them on the shoulder and say, I need some help from you. I need some more tools or tech or resources or stories. So tell us, how do we do that? What are your suggestions in that regard, and what kinds of things do we want to ask them for?
So I'm gonna give you a building block, a more foundational piece before we get to that. Okay. That I think is really important. I think that your listeners need to, before they start asking, they need to really think about what it is that they want or need. They need to look at the current situation. And let's be honest, the way the world looks today versus the way it looked on March 12th is very different. And I think they need to look at their own business and decide how they want that experience to go for their customers. We have a client that we work with that's in the flooring space in the retail side of the business. And they're a large chain. I don't know if is the right word, but they have a number of different independent retailers that are part of their organization. And I asked this person, what percentage of your retailers do you think have defined a modern experience that they want to deliver to their customer? They have written down, this is how we are going to treat our customer. This is the experience we want them to have. So they will keep coming back and they will give us referrals. Have they written it down? I asked him what percentage, and he goes, well, that's easy, 0. So when you think about, that in that instance, that retailer, and the life of an independent retailer is not wholly different than the life of a smaller independent designer, in the sense that there's a lot going on. You're juggling a lot of things, but taking the time to really understand when if somebody does business with you, what you want them to say about you when you're done, and sort of mapping out, even if it's crude and it's on a legal pad, mapping out what those steps are, educating your partners in the industry, your vendors, your association partners, your whatever groups you participate in. Educating people on what you really need and being explicit about it is going to help them provide a better level of experience. So I think that foundational piece is really necessary. Now I'm going to switch over to your actual question, which was, how, what are you asking them for? I truly believe that there's a couple of ways of looking at this. There's content and you talked about process, right? People buy process. I'll start with the process for a minute. Processes have changed, right? In the pandemic world, we've shifted into processes being very different. And I truly believe that having a true solution for a virtual consultation, anything in the home space, very little of it can be bought through e-commerce. Right? Anybody who reads the news or looks on LinkedIn, you're going to see e-commerce is exploding. Mm-hmm. But not what you do and what your designers do can't all be purchased through e-commerce. You need that support. You need that hand-holding through the process. You need a person to help you. A virtual consultation, I believe, is something that people need to figure out across the industry. Retailers, designers, it doesn't matter who they are, they need to figure it out. So I look at that as one of the processes to say, okay, if that's going to be part of your process, part of your engagement and your selling process, what do you need to be able to pull that off? Right? I know that there's organizations, there's industry associations that are putting out content of, here's how you run a good virtual consultation. Here are the tools you need. There's some of that out there already. If your listeners and the designers do not have access to that type of stuff, you should be going to the IIDAs of the world. You should be going to other industry associations and saying, I need content on this because I'm a small shop and I don't know how to do this on my own. Guide me on this. So that's one example where process is something where you need to leverage the power of your network and the power of the industry to get better at it, because everybody's figuring it out at the same time.
So it's so true. I mean, we're members of Exciting Windows, and that is a group of window treatment retailers across the U.S. And we have meetings biweekly with all of the members across the country, and every single meeting, we are consistently discussing how to up level and help each other and help our salespeople do better virtual consultations, even if it's just the first consultation and we're going to go, the second consultation is going to be in the home where we take the measurements and do everything else. It's to have it be exceptional, not just ordinary or not just ineffective at the worst, right?
Well, I'll give you a great example. Talking to somebody who runs sales for a very successful kitchen and bath showroom, mostly kitchen. But they've been extremely busy during the pandemic period, extremely busy. She can't hire people fast enough. She told me that the salespeople that she has, she cannot get a single one of them to do video consultations. They refuse. Not a single one of them will do it.
Wait, it's not a democracy. I don't understand that. Like, my brain is like fried on that just as a business owner, but I hear you and I won't go down that road. But what? I think that's like a What Would Lou Do show. I have to say, but okay, so go ahead.
No, but what I was going to say was, in that instance, you have a situation where, okay, she needs help, right? And that's an independent business. They're not a huge shop. They're successful, but they're not a 100-person company.
No, I mean,
yeah. And looking for the industry tools and the help and the resources to be able to deliver that experience and to be able to make that transition. My help to her is I can help her understand how to break down those salespeople and help, make it their idea, right? That's a big part of our expertise is you got to make it their idea. It's just like anything else. You can't tell them they have to do, you have to sell it to them. Right. But that process piece is one example. But let's get into the idea of selling it to them, okay? If you're going to sell these ideas, when I say sell the idea, I mean, let's go back to the idea of selling through, not selling to, right? If you're a designer who wants your vendor partners and your suppliers to help you better equip you to sell through to that customer, thinking about the ways that happens, you need to innovate, okay? I'm just being transparent here. The people that we work with in the industry, innovation is, we've digitized our product catalog or we PDF'd it, right? The idea of, we have a digital catalog. It's a PDF. That's not a digital catalog. I'm sorry to say it. That's not a digital catalog. That's not the experience. That the bar shouldn't be set there. And when we think about content, we think about things like, I'll start from the easiest and get to the hardest. Okay. We do for one of our clients, both for their sales team and also their retailers that their sales team works with. We do a podcast series. It's an internal facing thing. It's not publicly available, but through their dealer portals and through their internal channels, they make these podcasts available, and they're on relevant topics. They're designed to meet the listener where they're at. These are folks that are driving from appointment to appointment, or they're going from measurement to measurement. And this is an opportunity for them to hear some relevant content and to get it out there in a new way and make the content something that people want to listen to, not feeling like it's an advertisement or it's forced down their throat. It adds value. It's not just taking the product catalog or the ebook and just shoving it out through an email. It's curating the content for them in a different way. And Luann, podcasts aren't the most expensive thing in the world to do, right? You need an iPhone and maybe somebody who knows some editing. Your operation is much more sophisticated than that. But for a lot of these shops, it doesn't have to be. Okay, it doesn't have to be more sophisticated than that.
So I'm not sure I heard the point there. The podcast is designed internally for the sales team to continue to educate them, like you said, so that eventually doing the virtual sales and other things is their idea, or the podcast is for that company's consumers?
No, internally focused. So I would say, think of it, anybody who represents the brand. We talk about brand representatives all the time. So it could be for the sales team, or it could also be for the designers, right? If they go to market through the art and design community, then when we think about, a lot of people ask us, well, how can sales reps cut through the noise right now? How can organizations cut through the noise? People are not taking in-person appointments, right? Lunch and learns don't exist anymore.
Right.
And people are trying to do them virtually, but I don't know that they added that much value to begin with, because it was always a dog and pony show about product.
To begin with, right, exactly.
So that's where the pandemic, I think, is accelerating good trends, which is things that we did before. It's not, we can't do them anymore because of safety. We're not going to do them anymore because they weren't good before, right? There's an opportunity just to get better. But this idea of learning what's relevant to the designer and what their needs are. And, maybe it's in a certain product category, the latest and greatest in a certain product category, and having the podcast, creating a podcast that's focused on, meeting their needs in that regard. And it could come from the brand, or it could come from, other people in that space, in that category. And if you're adding value to the designer, your name's going to rise to the top of the heap anyway. If you're cutting through the noise by adding value, you replace the lunch and learn with something more innovative and get on the radar in a different way. You're going to add value that way.
Right. And so if I understand you correctly, if we go back to your example of the flooring company that is one of your clients. So this is a nationally, a national flooring company that has retailers and distributors all over the U.S. And then to go to that individual retailer that you were talking to. So it would be this flooring company having an internal podcast that educates, creates, gives value, everything. And so it would be distributed to all the on-the-road salespeople, which aren't on the road anymore, is the point of it, all of the actual retailers in the chain, and then maybe their designer clients that patronize them, just literally consistently, like you're saying, giving them the information to sell through all the way to their consumer. That's what you're talking about.
It's a storytelling tool. And you might want to version it out for the audiences, right? The way that the message you might want to deliver to the art and design community might be different than the retail sales, residential sales team selling to residential retailers. But you might want to version it out a little bit. But that's one example. Okay, I'll give you another example. Right. In this industry, I'm starting to hear more organizations, more brands picking this up, but augmented reality is going to be a thing in your business, right? In the design world, augmented reality is going to be a thing whereby, and I know that there's some tools out there, but they're still so far behind what the state of the art is related to how augmented reality can be leveraged to drive better design. And when you think about how augmented reality could work with virtual consultations, and where people are sent, they're uploading pictures and they're sent links and they're holding up their iPad and the furniture is popping up in their room scene and it almost looks like it's live and things like that. Those are tools that it's one of those things 5 or 10 years ago, super expensive. Not that many people did it, but it's becoming more popular. The cost of it is coming down. So, augmented reality is something that I think is, what I would call the next step up in sophistication. And I think, all the way up the chain, I think virtual reality is something that, again, the cost is coming down. And when you're talking about a visual design oriented world, I truly think that virtual reality is something that the industry should look to leverage more. I can't believe that you're not seeing more manufacturers and brands leveraging virtual reality now when they can't have people into showrooms or they can't have people to trade shows and things like that. I would have thought that would have exploded even more. But I do think that you're going to see the wheel start to turn on that, and people are going to start to demand those tools.
Walk me through I can't visualize augmented reality in conjunction with the virtual consult. I'm not sure I really actually understand what augmented reality even is, and therefore I can't connect it with the consult.
Sure. So I'm going to tell you, the first time I ever saw augmented reality was somebody showed me a brochure, and there was a page in the brochure, and that page in the brochure was like a trigger. And you held your phone up, if you opened a certain app, and if you held your phone up to that page, basically the page animated and came to life. Things started happening. Basically, literally, things started to jump off the page, and it started to come to life. There are some tools, I'm sure you've seen them from a variety of manufacturers, whereby you can have room scene. You can create a room scene with a variety of materials and things like that. But it's getting even more sophisticated to the point where you could have a virtual consultation with somebody and learn about their home and things like that, and then give them instructions on, if you'd like to see, when I say virtual consultation, I'm basically saying give them a sense of what their home would look like in an after state, right? There's the before and there's the after, whether it's a couch or window treatment or the other products that you might be talking about putting in there, or flooring. And you do that video consultation, and then you provide them some links, you provide them some materials, and they can go and they can see it for themselves. They can actually see what that would look like in a live environment, as opposed to it just being static or in an ebook or in a product catalog. It's catalogs come to life.
Okay, it's catalog. Okay, and so what you're saying in all of this is this brings us around to your initial premise is, as an independent interior designer, don't you go out and think you need to invest in this technology, but to press the vendors and the brands to do this and say, hey, hand up, it'd be great if I could offer this to my clients, and you're the one with the resources and the wherewithal and the catalog to do it.
I would say yes. I can't believe that in 2020, with what we're going, even before COVID, that they would even have to ask. They shouldn't have to ask. This should be what the brands are doing anyway. I talked to a woman recently who represents a number of different luxury brands out of Italy. She has sort of a consortium of Italian luxury brands, and some are in the tile and stone space. And they've gotten into augmented reality. That's a big push that they've made, and they are providing that to the people that distribute their product, the designers that represent it, and they are basically providing an experience whereby you no longer will say to a customer, the idea. Sampling, anybody I talk to in this industry says that sampling is basically the bane of the industry's existence, right? Sampling is a very challenging thing. It's costly and trying to get it right. But I truly believe that if you go that route, instead of providing that physical sample of the stone, at some point they're going to need to see a physical sample. But instead of trying to figure that part out, make the experience memorable for them and actually give them the chance to see that countertop or that backsplash fully built out and put it up again. They can hold it up. It's like taking an iPad and holding it up to their wall in their kitchen, and their wall, it will now look like, through the lens of their iPad, it will now look like that backsplash is actually on their wall.
That's insane. So, is it there's just like a tech tool or an app that when I am having a virtual consult that what do I send them a link and that's this app? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does
it can go a variety of different ways. It can go a variety of different ways. It all depends. It can basically, in a lot of instances, what people are starting to do is kind of build out a catalog in a way that it can be done in an augmented reality way, whereby again you could send somebody something and it will either pull it off the page, or in some cases there's apps. Like I know that the flooring brands all have apps whereby you can basically upload a picture of your room and then apply the flooring to your room and it will lay it out in there. But if this is a 9-inning game, that is like the first or second inning that's not even really technically augmented reality. There are other tools that would allow you to actually place it in a live environment. And whether that's through apps or links or web pages, there's a variety of different ways to do it.
Interesting. Okay. And so the idea, the other idea to come back to is this whole, I want to just say the experience of the kitchen designer that you were working with and exploding is so true. I mean, we're recording this at the end of the summer in 2020, and I know personally WindowWorks is off the rails in business. It's absolutely insane. And I'm running 2 different masterminds of high achieving 2 million plus firms, and their businesses are off the rails. And the thing about it is, when I say off the rails, I mean, I should say runaway trains. I don't mean off the rails, runaway trains. And the idea is that it's on one hand, it's so logical and in front of our face, the reasons. We have our top 10%, demographic of clients in the country that are not taking $20,000 and $30,000 vacations, and they're at home. They're not going to restaurants 3 or 4 nights a week. And so the combination of the available money that they had allotted for other expenses that they cannot do, plus being at home every day, they're saying to themselves, and this kitchen didn't work for me. It's just and I'm in it every day, or this bedroom didn't work for me, or this family room, or for us, what we're experiencing at WindowWorks is the outdoor spaces. We're selling awnings like we're selling chiclets. It's like insane. And so great. I just wanted to acknowledge that while COVID has been obviously extremely challenging on an economic level with so many of us in other ways and in other industries, this market is just, I think, hitting its stride on what the impact is going to be as everybody in this top percent financial demographic of the country realizes that they're going to be home for another year. So, this is getting serious, sweetie. Let me make my home a castle, right? So beyond that, though, knowing all of that there's tremendous opportunity for us in the home decor industry, and knowing that we've got to lean into the virtual, are there some tips and ideas that you want us to know about virtual consultations, and then that you could educate us on what we should be asking for our vendors for these virtual consultations?
Yeah. I think, it ties in with what my answer is going to tie into what you were just saying about sort of the industry being a runaway train, so to speak. What happens next year, right? When what happens next year when we're not going to go back to the way that it was. We're not going to go back to the phrase I keep using is browsing is dead, right? Because they don't need to anymore. People don't need to browse anymore. They can have things done in a simpler way, can save them a lot of time. And that relates to the virtual consultation. This is what I would say as it relates to virtual consultations. The first tip I would give, because I do think it's going to be very relevant now and it's going to be relevant into the future because it's a time saver. Not only is it safe, but it's a time saver. And it can help establish a good rapport between client and customer. Between designer and customer. But it's my first tip would be don't do it unless you're actually going to do it. And what I mean by that is I had an experience the other day where I had a home contractor on their website, big splashy link. It says, click here to schedule your virtual consultation. Okay, schedule a virtual consultation for noon. Noon rolls around. Never got the phone call. They were going to give me a phone call and text me a Zoom link. Okay, never got a phone call, never got a Zoom link. 12:17, I call them. Where's my consult? We'll get back to you. A couple minutes later, guy gets back to me, says, can you do FaceTime? Well, I wanted to do Zoom. I'm an Android user. Okay, I'm not in my office. I can't do Zoom. Fine. I go get an Apple device. He calls me back on FaceTime. He's driving his truck. Okay, mounted up on his dashboard is his phone. He's driving his truck, and I said, "Why don't we reschedule this?" He goes, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "You're driving. You're operating a motor vehicle, and you're trying to do a video consultation." My point is, you really have to think hard about whether or not you actually want to do it, and you want to do it right. Okay. And that virtual consultation, you think about if that person had invited you into their home, the level of preparation that you would put into it. Making sure that you're in a good, comfortable spot, making sure that you are going to be on video, whether they want to be or not, you should be on video. Right. And committing to that, making sure that you have a suite of technology that you're willing to go to. If you can't do every single one of the platforms, don't offer it. Say you offer Zoom, you offer FaceTime, and you offer Skype. That's it. Those are the ones you offer. Almost everybody. And by the way, statistics show that consumers are ready for this and they have access to that. Could be Google Hangouts, depending on what platform you use. But offer up the technology that you're comfortable with. And again, that's where leveraging ideas and input from industry partners is key, right? What are other people using? What have you found to be successful? Should I use one? Should I use four? Those are the types of things you should be talking to industry partners about. Or at some point, somebody's going to design one for the industry, and it's going to be specifically designed for this, and it's going to make everybody's life a lot easier. Until that point, really understanding and mapping out how you want that to go is really important. Understanding what the objective of that conversation is, right? Documenting, what do I want to accomplish from this discussion? What am I just trying to learn so that next conversation I can go into it? Lowe's has a tool right now where professional contractors can do measurements virtually. They don't even need to be in your home. Look it up. I can send you the link, Luann.
Wow.
Lowe's for their pro contractors, you can do a consultation, and you can hold up your phone and they can measure your floor, your countertops, your cabinets, whatever you want done. You can measure it through the virtual consultation.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. Really can move you along in that documentation and that like budgeting process, I should say, right?
Exactly. But my point is document how far you want to go into the process. Do you have the capabilities to do that? If you don't, okay, maybe it's just an information gathering session. It's a chance to get to know you. Maybe you get a couple peeks at their space, show me what you want to have done. And that way, the next when you meet with that person face to face, you know a lot more about what they're looking to do. But you've also got a rapport with them. Right. People have learned to build rapport over Zoom calls, right? If that's one thing we've learned in the last 6 months, it's how to make that work and how to make it a little bit more personal. Don't give up that chance. Right. If you feel like you can do it and you can commit to it, don't give up the chance to build that more personalized relationship with the person before you ever get a chance to meet them.
Well, you're speaking to the choir on this now. This is one of the main tenets from Exciting Windows is we call it the 1A phone call in Exciting Windows. And there's a whole 7-step process that we follow as window treatment professionals to, impact our closing ratio, our success. And the 1A phone call is the whole goal is build rapport, is build trust, is make that introduction. And so what I said to you a few minutes ago about Exciting Windows, there's this every week we're talking about, is the 1A phone call now a 1A Zoom call? Is it a virtual consult? And, knowing that the world, like to your point, the world is going to change. Steve Burston and Steve Wishnow are the leaders of Exciting Windows, and they are such visionaries. The Steves have been in the business for more than 50 years, and they are visionaries, and he is consistently saying, I think this is the way of the future. I think this is what we got to do. We just had a conversation on Sunday, and he just said to me and my husband, what do you think we got to do to get all of our people to understand that this is the new 1A phone call? I think it's amazing that you are sharing that one little piece of it, is that it is also a terrific tool for building the rapport. And for us, we're constantly talking about how if our competitors aren't doing it, by the time I actually get to the house for the consultation, I've already made my friend. Right? That's the whole point, right?
Absolutely. And this is where, Luann, when we spoke before the show, we were talking about kind of connecting all these dots, right? There's a lot of dots that, we've talked about a lot of stuff. We've covered a lot of ground. But, when you think about connecting the dots, putting the designer in a position to better deliver for their customer, right? And if you now have the video conferencing is a gift that we've gotten out of this really terrible year that the world has gone through. I do believe that video conferencing is a gift. It was always there, but the mass use, the mass adoption of it is something that is going to persist. And it is something that gives your designers even more opportunity. It's a chance to leverage it. But then when you start to stitch back and connect the dots back to the rest of the industry and the ecosystem, are brands hosting lunch and learns or hosting sessions on delivering video consultations at scale, or how to make video consultations your 1A? Are they some may be, and I'm sure that some industry organizations are, but the way that you're going to talk about a product, represent a product, maybe introduce a product through video, maybe you're not going to represent it or introduce it at all through video, but the ecosystem partners, the industry partners, thinking about, okay, my designers need to get good at that. How can I be somebody who's putting them in a position to win in that environment? That's where value is added. That's where you move away from pushing product and selling through, is to put the designer in a position to deliver a better experience for that customer. When I say better, I don't mean an adapted fake it during COVID experience. I mean something that was better than if COVID had never happened.
It's so true. It is, I love your term. It's modern. What is it? Modern 21st marketing. What did you call it? Modern. I'm looking for my notes.
21st century sales marketing. I heard somebody speak shortly before COVID happened. He was he's an auto expert, and he works with auto dealers. And he was talking about a modern brand promise. And I talk about a modern customer experience. And that's really what it is. A modern customer experience. I wrote an article for Forbes fairly recently that I will share with you as a link, Luann, that really talks about this idea of the modern customer experience comes to Main Street, right? This idea of serving the modern customer. And I referenced that Lowe's example where Lowe's is offering their pro contractors this tool. Big boxes and mass retail is going to figure this out, and they're going to figure it out fast. They've got the resources to do it. They can do it all in-house. They don't have, smaller organizations, but that's why we're so focused on the independent business owners, whether they're retailers or designers, and looking for ways to leverage the scale that exists in their industry through the distributors, through the brands and the manufacturers. They've got the scale, they can do this stuff, but the industry needs to work together to make it happen. But that idea of the modern customer experience, this is not a waited out thing. I truly believe it's existential for the home goods, the home design, the home furnishing space. It's existential because old school is not cutting it anymore. You can't be old school anymore. Old school means you can't meet the modern customer's needs.
I love it. I think, and the thing is, I love that you're saying that the brands have got to be at the lead at this. They have to be at the forefront because just like you said, the big box brands, they have the pockets and they have the infrastructure to mobilize and to change the way they do things. And so in our industry, at the I guess the more curated level of our industry, the more custom level of the decor industry where we are, our brands are there too. And you're saying, harking out to them and saying, hello, wake up, help, help us get into this 21st century and this modern 21st century selling. And to your point, it is going to change. I'm with you. I believe 100% that the change is here to stay and there's more changes to come. But when you think about if this had lasted 5, 6, 8 weeks, okay, maybe blip, some people would continue to do it. But at this many months in, to what I think has happened by it going this many months in, you have consumers that in their wildest dreams would not have done FaceTiming even. But in order to see your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren, you needed to lean into it, or you were going 3 and 4 and 5 months without seeing them. And so, in our family, one of the daughters in our family, she sent a portal, like one of those portal devices or whatever it is, to all the grandparents and great-grandparents. Like literally, they took it upon themselves, ordered one to each of us, sent it all, and we all have our day. Sunday, Gigi and Papa up, and the other day is Mom and Grandpa, and the other one is Mommy Oli and Papa Ruki, and it's like, and so when I think about my parents doing this, and then in 3 or 4 months, if they were to say, oh, we need our roof replaced, and the roofer would say, hey, I'd love to do the first consultation with you by video, they're going to say, okay, you know what I mean? Like, why not? Right?
Luann, so there's a couple examples. You want to know how good roofing contractors are doing estimates and measurements now?
No.
Google Maps and Google Earth. I'm not joking. So, right? and a couple other examples when you talk about the COVID thing and this idea of it's accelerated it, but it was going to happen anyway. And I've got two examples for you. One is I give them so much credit. Cadillac. Cadillac launched a service called Cadillac Live last October, okay, pre-COVID. And Cadillac Live is it's this all-white environment, all-white studio where they have Cadillac brand representatives that when you go to their website, you can click Start Session, and you connect to a live Cadillac brand representative who can walk you to in a video format, walk you over to, it's not every model, but it's all of their most popular models in this one showroom. I won't say virtual showroom, but it's an actual showroom. And rather than your first contact being you walk into a dealership on a Saturday and maybe somebody talks to you, maybe you like them or you don't, you've got this person who's not interested in selling you anything. Their only job is to make a great impression, answer your questions, and help you, right? It's the 1A. It's the rapport, right? It's that 1A contact. But Cadillac is one example where they had Cadillac Live out there before, and it was a great way to drive a new customer experience, to disrupt the customer experience for the better, right? To save the customer time, save them time spent in a dealership, but nobody wants to spend extra time in a car dealership.
Right.
The second one is a bank. You talk about a place you don't want to spend extra time. There's a bank out of the Pacific Northwest called, I'm going to see if I can pronounce it correctly, Umpqua, Umpqua. And they have a tool where if you need help with your banking, you go into, you can do a chat. They have a chat feature. You go into an app and you can collect the chat, but instead of some random bubble popping up, they tell you all the financial professionals that are available right now to talk to you. They have a picture, they have a profile, they have a bio and an experience level, even things like if they're dog or cat lovers. Think of it as Match.com meets banking, okay? And you select the person you're most comfortable talking to, and the next thing you know, you are chatting with that person. And you feel like you know them a little bit. You never even see them. It's not a video experience. But this existed pre-COVID. This is something they had in the marketplace pre-COVID. But my point is, these are things that if you say I'm having a good year, I don't need to focus on these things now. I'm going to go back to that phrase I used earlier. This is existential. You may have leaned into this year and it broke in your way in terms of the business that you've gotten, but this is going to disrupt the industry for years to come. And when you have the time, it's a place that needs focus.
Wow. Amazing. I'm so impressed. I really am. I'm so impressed. I am ignited and I'm excited.
I love it. I've got it marked down and starred in my book.
No, I truly am, because I not to continue to harp on exciting windows, but it's such a source of information and knowledge for us in running our business. It's such a support group. And the Steves, as we call the leaders, have been hammering this on us to lean into this the way you are. And I have to say, I have not fought it, but I have not embraced it in the way that I know they believe that we should. And it's mostly because I'm just like, oh my goodness, it's one more thing to do. To your point, to do it well, because that's what I know. I'm not going to have myself or my salespeople running down the road on a consult, because that is just disrespectful. And so I have, molded in my brain, what would it take to really make this part of our process? And it has hit me as a tiny bit overwhelming. And so therefore, I have not jumped in with 2 feet. I've sort of said, I believe you, because anything that comes out of these two men's mouths, especially regarding business or the window treatment business, you're just a fool if you don't listen. That's the way I feel. And so I've been kind of resistant, and now their encouragement, their advice, their vision combined with what you're saying, it is now I'm like, okay, we need new initiatives at WindowWorks. We have got to lean into this. We've got to figure this out. And to your point, here's what's really interesting. I think this is almost like a Seinfeld episode, wrapping it all the way around, is that you came here to not only explain to us what will be very important in our businesses, but to encourage us to reach out to our vendors in our trades, our vendors in our brands, to help us with it. And I want our designers to do that. But what's interesting is I've been explaining to you how Exciting Windows is my brand. It's my vendor. And they have been harping on it for months. And so I'm sitting here thinking, wow, for my little particular niche, I already have that forward-thinking vendor and, who is looking to support me and looking into different technology that he can bring to our whole chain of national chain of window treatment retailers. And that's what you're saying is go to our big brands in this industry, individually in the design industry, and say, hello, knock, 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 help us. This is a new world order. It is not a temporary thing. And let's work together to make sure that we are not, left by the wayside by the big box stores and the things and the innovations that they do, right?
Experience beats product.
Yeah.
I would sum up with what you just said with experience beats product. And let me ask you a quick question about Exciting Windows. Is Exciting Windows the norm, or do they stand out as being an outlier in terms of the way they're thinking?
Oh, absolutely outlier. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Well, visionary. He's a visionary.
Yeah. Well, that gives you the answer that you need here. Is we're at a time we're in an era where that type of thinking it's going to rapidly go from visionary to commonplace and mainstream. And like you said, in terms of what your designers and your audience can be doing, it really is taking that as an example and starting to challenge their suppliers to be their brands, their manufacturers to start being more like Exciting Windows, because you need that to be something that becomes more industry standard. And again, that idea of get people focused on experience over product. Your designers win if the focus in the industry shifts from product to experience.
Amazing. I'm so grateful that Alexa's connected us. I hope that my friends listening really get this. And I know there are some forward-thinking ones that won't even wait for the support of the vendors and the brands to do this. But this is a conversation that as a community we need to bring to our industry. To your point, Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show and helping us with this idea.
This has been fun. Thank you for having me.
I have to say, I really enjoyed this conversation with Chris. In every episode, I absolutely adore the aha moments. And I always, practically every time, I find information and ideas that I take into my own businesses, whether it's the Window Works or the podcast. And this one, you heard it. It hit me between the eyes. And of course, I've spoken to you before and let you know that at Window Works, we're members of Exciting Windows, which is a national network for the window treatment industry. All right. Exciting Windows is led by Steve Burston and Steve Wishnow, and we affectionately call them the Steves. These men are visionaries. No joke. I don't say that lightly. And of course, I have the great fortune of crossing the path and having really good conversations with so many business people. But these two men stand head and shoulders above most, I have to say. And during the conversation with Chris, it kept hitting me how the Steves have been telling us throughout this pandemic to find ways to lean into this virtual and the technology and the advancements and the things that are coming as the changes in our industry, and how important it is to adopt these initiatives. And even though maybe they're a little confusing and we're thinking, well, I'm already doing the shop at home again, the point is that the Steves have been encouraging us not to drop the virtual, and here Chris comes along, and he just is expressing the same value, the same things that the Steves have been telling us, all right? And so, what does that do? It number one, it just reaffirms for me, which I never need reaffirming, how important it is to be part of a network, a mentoring group, whatever the thing is, where you're on a regular basis able to interact with your peers. So as interior designers, is that IDS? Is that ASID? Is that the WCAA? Is it, Facebook groups, okay? For window treatment people, it's exciting windows. It's the WCAA. The idea is that your brain needs to be pushed around in boxes and out of boxes, and really hearing the ideas and the successes that your peers are having in areas, in places that maybe, like in this case for me, I was saying, I don't need to do it, right? I don't want to do it. I don't need to do it. We're back to in person. So I love it. I love it. Okay. Some of the things that Chris talked about really impressed me. Being able to hold up a phone and see what a backsplash or a tile is going to look like on your wall, right? I mean, and I'm thinking about this as possibilities for WindowWorks in particular. And I want you to think about it for possibilities for your business too, for your design firm. For me, what would it be like if we could really hold up this phone and see what an awning, and show a customer what an awning would look like on their home, right? Because, an awning can be a major investment, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. We have $150,000 awnings that we're doing. And you as interior designers need to keep that in mind too, because that's a viable product for you to add to your Nancy G ladder of services. But anyway, let's see. The biggest takeaway is that we all want to provide the best possible customer experience, right? We want to bring value to our clients that goes beyond just offering them nice products. And we want to do it with this forward-thinking approach using technology. And Chris's message is to find the industry partners that believe in this too, and that are leaning into this too, and create your relationships with them. Okay. And of course, this entire show was also reminding me of John Dupre of Rebel Woods. If you haven't listened to episode 329, I highly encourage you to do that. All right. John started a flooring company. His father has been in the business his entire life. John grew up in the flooring business, but he didn't want just another flooring company. He wanted to make his products in a way that was not only fair and equitable and available to everyone, but he was very focused on providing an end user experience that was absolutely excellent from top to bottom. And his secondary is to provide the support to you as an interior designer or a window treatment professional that wants to add hardwood flooring to their services, their Nancy G ladder of services, right? Because, if you listen to the episode, you will hear how the technology that John Dupre of Rebel Woods developed literally takes away so many of the scary places where you can make a big mistake when specifying hardwood flooring to a client. And I remember having my first conversation with John, when he first reached out and we had a phone call, and I was just so impressed with the idea that I hung up and I called the VIN man and I said, "You're not going to believe this kid that I just met. He's amazing. He's got a great idea." And Vinny immediately was like, "We should sell hardwood flooring." I'm like, okay, like take a shorter step there. Okay. But since then, we're all friends with his parents. Vinny and John are on the phone every single week. And we just totally believe in what he's doing at Rebel Woods. And of course, it aligns exactly what Chris is saying. It's that 21st century sales mindset. Okay. It's looking future and seeing how. And to Chris's point, this, like Exciting Windows, Rebel Woods is one of those industry partners that you can reach out, speak to, talk with, and access ideas, technology, and leverage that relationship in a way that benefits your individual business. Okay. So Chris's company, InnerView, helps companies get very clear on providing and marketing that brings that branded customer experience, right? And he helps you highlight what makes them different and innovative. Okay. They focus on 3 components: belief, confidence, and pride. And they help the companies they work with reflect these in their marketing. So if you're interested, go to interviewgroup.com. All right. Interviewgroup.com. I hope that you learned something today that you will take away to your business. I hope that you can look around and recognize that maybe there are some industry partners in your circle that you didn't think about in this way. You didn't understand that, whoa, they're doing this. They're offering this help and this advice and this guidance and that expertise. And why am I just like rolling alongside of them as opposed to getting engaged with them. Okay. So looking forward to really at WindowWorks upping our game in the virtual. So, look for that in the future. Okay. All right. And I want to tell you that we have the book launch coming. Finally, we have the book launch coming, okay? So it's coming November. It's just a second around the corner. And if you want, we're going to have this big, fun, first of all, the book is going to launch on Amazon, right, in a hot minute, November 12th, November 15th-ish, okay? That's pre-sale period. So please go to luannigara.com/launch. All right. And then you'll get the email when the book is actually live. But we're going to have a big party on December 10th. Yes, we are. December 10th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. I am gathering my 9 co-authors, and we're going to have a fun, free Zoom party. All right. And what we're going to do at this party, about an hour long, we're just going to have fun. We're going to celebrate it. The 10 of us have worked very hard over the last year to get this book together for you, and all of them putting their genius into it and helping each of you with their expertise. And so we want to have a little fun. We want to have a little celebration. And what we're going to do is, first of all, I'm going to ask each of the 9 of them to share a quote that means something to them, personally, professionally. Explain why and how it touched them. Then I'm going to ask each of them to give one tip that they know really impacted their business. Somebody gave it to them. They learned it through their own experience, but they want you to know this tip from them. And so imagine that. That's like right there, worth coming, right? Okay. And then we're going to talk about would you rather. We're just going to have some fun with would you rather. And I'll ask them crazy questions about their personal life, about their business life, about their different career experiences before being a designer or whatever field they're in, because of course we have more than just designers as my Power Talk Friday experts. And would you rather this or would you rather that? And the idea is I want you to get to know these 9 amazing women the way that I know them, and the reason why that these 9 amazing women have been invited to be a part of this book, because I know firsthand, I know their heart, and I know their intent, and I know their expertise, and I want you to know it too. All right, so this is going to be fun. About 6:30 to 7:30, 8 o'clock. By Zoom, free event. Please come, and to make sure you get the email for when the registration is live, go to luannigara.com/launch. Okay. luannigara.com/launch. I will have my glass of Pinot Noir with me. You bring whatever you like. Okay. All right. 2 things before I let you go. Hang with me. First of all, let's thank Kirsch. Okay. Let's thank Kirsch for sponsoring the podcast. And of course, for my window treatment professionals, especially. You already know how amazing Kirsch is, a 100-year-old company, and always innovating, always bringing new things. Their Breeza line motorized rods is the latest, greatest, okay? The revamping of the Buckingham collection. There are tried and true things, but you can't just sit on your laurels with the tried and true things. So yes, the Buckingham collection is amazing, but it needed to be revamped, and that's what they did. And so this is an innovative company, not just sitting around resting on past experience. They've got new things that they're always working. And of course, we've got the standbys with the Superfine line of rods and the Architrack line of rods that we just use on the regular. So if you are an interior designer and this is new for you, then go to Kirsch, KIRSCH.com, where you can see all of the beautiful photography of all of the rods, and you can also find your local dealer where you can get a more in-depth explanation and introduction to Kirsch. All right, that's Kirsch.com. And lastly, next week, we start with Sarah Lynn Brennan's Process Leads to Profits. You can still join the course, processleads2profits.com. If you aren't sure if you need this course, yesterday's show, Sarah was on it and talking about how she can manage 27 projects at one time with her and 2 people on her staff. And the one person on her staff, Christine, is the business manager. So it's her and one other designer. Let's be serious, okay? So, processleads2profits.com. We've had more than 70 interior designers go through this, 5-star reviews, every single one. Every single one has explained how it has changed their business to just be with Sarah every week for 6 weeks and understand how to break down what you do in your business in order to put it to a process that you can duplicate so that you can scale your business. Or how about if you don't want to scale, just so that you can do your business during business hours? There's an idea, right? Okay, so thank you so much for showing up today. If you're interested in information on exciting windows or Revel Woods or Process Leads to Profits or Chris, all of those will be in the show notes for this episode. Okay, so have a great day. Go in peace. Enjoy it. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.